Dylan.
I'm Kiyan.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast with horribly racist accents. Because this week we watched The Talons of Weng-Chiang.
Written by Robert Holmes.
Directed by David
Sherlock
Maloney.
Holmes. Sorry.
Directed by David Maloney.
And aired from February through April of 1977. I think, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Good job. Yeah, so originally this serial was going to be entirely different. It was going to be called The Foe from the Future. It was going to be written by Robert Banks Stewart, who wrote Seeds of Doom and Terror of the Zygons. But then as he had a synopsis ready and was all ready to write it, but then Verity Lambert was like, hey, I need your help on my soap opera. It's kind of failing. So Robert Banks Stewart didn't get a chance to write the serial he wanted to, so Robert Holmes was like, oh boy, I gotta write it myself now, and wrote this serial that's not really related at all to Robert Banks Stewart's original pitch. It's really irritating to say because they're both named Robert, but okay.
Well, you can just say Holmes and then Banks Stewart. Lethbridge Stewart. No. Well, it turned out to be a pretty good story anyway. So there's that.
Yeah. One of Robert Holmes' better scripts.
Yeah, I would say
he's
so.
clearly shown some improvement since his first script way back in the second Doctor's era.
Well, I guess it's because he and Hinchcliffe were about to take off, so...
Holmes actually sticks around. Hinchcliffe takes off, though. I think Holmes decided... I think Holmes decided to stick around for a bit more, but Hinchcliffe decided to kind of head out, so...
Well, there was that tidbit that I read about, they knew they were going to leave, so they kind of just went crazy on the budget for this.
Yeah, Hinchcliffe threw caution to the wind and just spent all sorts of money, and I think the next producer, I believe is Graham Williams, will end up suffering because of that, because I think the BBC will keep him on a bit more of a tight leash than they kept Hinchcliffe on. So we might see the quality of props go down next season, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
Well, really, it was just this serial where things took a bit of a skyrocket.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll really be anything new. Well, then again, there was Deadly Assassin, looked pretty good in general. And a couple of serials this season actually did. But we can save that for our season retrospective that we're probably going to do at the end of this episode. It's probably going to last all of 25 seconds. And I
have some things to say about this season.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess we'll just get into the serial.
Right.
Begins with Chang, doesn't it, on
Not
stage?
Chiang, but Chang. Who is a performer, a magician.
Yeah, magician. A Chinese magician played by a white actor, which is where the horribly racist aspect of the serial already begins.
Right, he's wearing prosthetics, I think.
Yeah.
But the bad part is his accent. He just puts on this terrible accent that I can't even describe it, and I'm also not even going to try and replicate it.
Yeah, probably for the better.
Think of the most racist possible accent that you could do for a Chinese person, and then multiply that by 10, and that's what this guy did.
Well, you described it pretty well when we were texting. You said it was like somebody prank called someone and pretended to be Chinese or something.
No, haven't you seen those prank call videos with the guy who...
Yeah, pretends to be Chinese.
Yeah. It sounded like that, if you know what I'm talking about. I forget exactly what he calls his videos. There's a specific name for it, but...
Dunno.
If you have anything at all good to do with your time, you probably don't know what I'm talking about, but...
No, you probably wouldn't also be listening to this podcast. But at least he looks Chinese, sort of.
Well, more so
than previously.
Yeah, which isn't really saying much. But anyway.
Yeah, he's doing some sort of act, and he comes off, and this is when we first meet Henry Gordon Jago.
Right, the better of the Jago Lightfoot duo.
Lightfoot is the better of the two. Can feel an argument coming later in this episode when we meet Lightfoot.
Anyway, Jago is the owner of the theater, and he notices some blood dripping down the arm of a dummy that Chang uses.
Yeah, and he thinks that's kind of shady, but he doesn't make a note of it yet because this guy busts into the theater named
Buller.
John, James,
Something like that.
Joseph Buller. He comes in and he's clearly drunk and he's throwing all these accusations that Chang kidnapped his wife or something. His wife's cheating on him with Chang because he saw his wife come to the theater the day before and she hasn't come out. And Chang's like, come with me and I'll explain everything. And he goes with Chang and Chang just kind of mind controls him into forgetting about it.
That's one way to solve your problems.
For now, because they end up just killing Buller later in the episode.
Yeah. The Doctor and Leela materialize, and...
both are not wearing their regular costumes.
Right. The Doctor's wearing some Sherlock Holmes...
garb.
Right.
With the Deer Stalker cap. Oh. Wow. It's funny because Tom Baker would play Sherlock Holmes in an adaptation of The Hounds of Baskerville just after leaving the role of Doctor Who, I think.
That's interesting.
But yeah, he's got the full garb going. It's also funny because the Doctor meets Sherlock Holmes in his 7th incarnation in one of the novels, so... But Leela has been dressed up in Victorian garb. She looks completely out of place in that costume.
And she acts completely out of place in this society as well. I like the part where they were eating and she was sitting cross-legged on the table.
Yeah, I like the part where where she's eating the meat and Lightfoot comes in and is like, there's like plates and knives and forks, and she's like, oh no, I'm good.
She's holding this gigantic mutton leg.
She's like, aren't you going to eat? And he's like, yes, and he considers eating with a knife and fork and then tries to imitate Leela eating it just straight off the bone. But, so the Doctor and Leela hop out, and Leela's like, why do I have to wear this? And the Doctor's like, you gotta blend in. You gotta look like everybody else.
If they're gonna imitate ace detectives from Scotland Yard, they have to blend in.
Well, it doesn't really work out because they kind of get into a scuffle with some Chinese because they notice Joseph Buller getting assaulted.
Yeah, and killed.
Yeah, so they get in a scuffle and an actual policeman shows up and is like, what are you guys doing, taking you down to the station? Because somehow all the Chinese get away except for the one Leela was strangling when the policeman showed up.
Right. So they take them down to the station to tell their story, and they're not really having any of it, the police, that is. The police officer, there's only one guy.
Yes, the Chinese person doesn't speak English, but the Doc's like, oh, no matter, I can speak Chinese, and they start speaking.
He says, I speak all the dialects. I'm pretty sure there's like hundreds of Chinese dialects.
So they start speaking, and a policeman's like, yeah, I don't think this would be proper considering you're part of the case. I've got my own translator, and I bring in Chang. And he's like, yes, hello, Doctor. The Doctor's like, haven't I seen you before? Chang's like, no, I don't think so. Then the Doctor kind of jumps up. It's like, oh yeah, you were on that poster outside the TARDIS when we got here.
Well, when no one's looking, Chang slips the other Chinese guy a pill, and he takes it willingly and it immediately kills him. And then when Chang's questioned about it, he's like, what? I have no idea what happened to him. Why would I be responsible for his death? What are you talking about?
Yeah. And then the Doctor's like, how did you do it, Chang? How did you make him die? What a mystery. Somehow the Doctor convinces the policeman to let the Doctor investigate this case because they found Joseph Buller's body in the river. I think there was an old lady who saw the body and reported it to the policeman.
Right.
So the policeman sends the Doctor down to Lightfoot, Professor Lightfoot, because he's the guy performing the autopsy on Buller's body.
Yes.
Because the Doctor wants to know how Buller died. Because they got into that scuffle outside and didn't look like he was dead yet, but they all ran away before the Doctor got captured, so they don't know. And they go down and they meet Lightfoot, the better of the two.
Yeah, sure.
He is.
Sure. Just keep telling yourself that.
You just keep telling yourself that J.O. is better. Just lying to yourself. So they meet Lightfoot, and Lightfoot kind of tells them that, hey, I don't know what happened to him, but it looks like he's been bitten by rats. It looks like
what a way to go.
Been eaten by rats. And the Doctor's like, let's go down in the sewer. Leela, you stay here.
But obviously she doesn't stay there, and as soon as they walk out, a guard or one of the Chinese gang members, because we actually find out they're from some sort of syndicate called the Tong of this Black Scorpion or something. Anyway, he's tailing them, and Leela kills him.
Yeah, because he throws a hatchet at the doctor, but he misses because at that exact moment, Leela had also shot him with a Janus thorn.
Janus.
Janus thorn.
I blanked on which pronunciation it was for a second. Yeah, the doctor gets mad that she took one of them with her.
Yeah, and then she's like, yeah, but I saved your life. And the doctor's like, oh, well, I guess you better come with then. So they go down into the sewers.
Right. Actually, this serial had quite a few instances of people throwing hatchets. Come to think of it.
Including the doctor himself multiple times.
Right, so they go down into the sewers.
And a giant rat shows up, and they're all like, and then episode 1 ends on that cliffhanger.
Who knows how they're going to resolve this?
Yeah, they resolve it in the worst cliffhanger resolution ever on this show. They literally just turn around and climb the ladder. They have no sense of urgency either. They just leisurely climb the ladder and get out. They're like, that could have been close. He almost killed us. And I was like, really? Really? He almost killed you.
Well, it does almost kill them later, so...
You mean it almost kills Leela later?
Yeah. I guess that doesn't make it any better.
So the doctor heads back to meet up with Lightfoot again, right?
Right. Meanwhile, Chang is seen talking to a suspicious-looking character in a mask and robe.
Suspicious-looking character. Every villain ever on this show.
Well, he describes the doctor as having hair that curls like the ram.
Yeah, and it's revealed that Chang really did steal that woman because this mysterious shadowy figure has been stealing the life force out of these young women that Chang keeps stealing from him. And Chang doesn't want to steal anymore because the police is kind of gathering heat, so to speak, and the police are getting close to finding out what's going on.
Right. The doctor either mentioned in episode 1 or mentions that the Tong of the Black Scorpion follows Weng-Chiang, who is an ancient Chinese god.
Yeah.
And Chang thinks this mysterious figure is Weng-Chiang.
I mean, he claims to be Weng-Chiang himself for a while.
Yeah.
Until he gets unmasked dramatically.
Semi-dramatically, I guess. Some of the drama is lessened based on things we'll probably explain at that point.
Yeah. So the doctor and Leela go to meet up with Lightfoot, and Lightfoot offers to let them stay at his house for a bit, since he's got a massive house, I guess, and he's the only one who lives there.
Yeah.
He has a housekeeper and everything.
Yeah.
He must be making bank on that autopsy business he's running. But he offers the doctor and Leela to join him for dinner, so they accept. They're like, yeah, may as well. And the doctor has to explain away something Leela says because Lightfoot has mentioned that it looked like Buller was stabbed from someone a lot shorter than him. And Leela's like, oh, but we were always taught to stab under the rib cage. And the doctor's like, she was found floating in a hat box down a river in the Amazon. Lightfoot's like, oh, okay. Interesting.
just accepts it. Actually, both Jago and Lightfoot kind of just accept everything that they're told.
Yeah, and that makes them funny to watch characters because they just go along with everything.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I can actually see why they got their own spin-off. Typically, I'd be like, wow, these characters got their own spin-off, what the heck? But, yeah, I can see why they got their own
They're
spin-off.
entertaining to watch. They're even more entertaining when they meet each other and they form their own little duo.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd go as far to say as they were the real heroes of this serial. Not the Doctor and Leela, no. Well, maybe not the heroes, but they were more interesting than the Doctor and Leela in this serial, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious why they became fan favorites after this serial and why they were brought back for books and their own audio series. And they get to actually travel in the TARDIS with the Sixth Doctor for 2 adventures.
I didn't
get to
know
go
that.
to Venus. And then they come back to Roanoke, and then they go home and like, yeah, Doctor, I don't think traveling in the TARDIS is for us. Thanks, though. But Yeah, so they go back to Lightfoot's house, and Leela's devouring the meat off the bone without using the knife or fork or plate that Lightfoot has so graciously put out for her and the doctor. The doctor goes off somewhere. I can't quite remember where now. He goes off to investigate something.
Yeah, he does. And I don't remember where either.
He might go. Oh, he might be going to the theater
he goes
to
to the
investigate
theater.
Chang. This is when he meets. This is when he meets Jago.
Yeah.
Henry Gordon Jago.
Right, Jago thinks he's trying to audition for an act, and he's not really having any of it.
Yeah, and then the doctor's like, no, I'm with Scotland Yard, and I need your assistance. Right before the doctor actually shows up, Jago was going to meet with Chang to talk about a new contract for Chang, because Chang's bringing in so much money for Jago that he wants to keep Chang around for a while.
Right.
And Chang kind of mind erases all memory from Jago's mind of Buller showing up the previous night.
Right, and I guess probably all the investigation that Jago did that we neglected to mention.
Yeah, like the blood running down Mr. Sin's arm. Mr. Sin is the ventriloquist dummy that Chang uses.
Right.
Dummy, quote unquote.
Yeah. Jago actually, snooped around a little bit in Chang's stuff and didn't really find anything suspicious, but he and Casey, who is the guy who works under him,
Yeah.
were kind of suspicious, so...
Yeah,
Yeah, Chang has erased his memories. And the doctor, now that we know the doctor can hypnotize / unhypnotize
Well, we've known he's been
people.
able to hypnotize people for a long time. Now we just know that he's good at telekinesis or whatever it was.
Now that they've explained it away, I guess it's slightly less jarring. Not jarring, but dumb.
It's less of a
Plot device.
yeah.
Anyway, that's what he does. Jago regains his memories.
Then he's like, whoa. Because when he was in the basement with Casey investigating this quote-unquote ghosts that Casey saw down there, he found a glove with the initials EB on them, and he was like, interesting, and he just kind of shoved them into his pocket. But now that he remembers Buller showed up the previous day, he's like, wait, EB, Emma Buller. Then the doc's like, we need to investigate the basement. So they investigate the basement. Pretty simple. Meanwhile, Leela and Lightfoot are kind of eating dinner, wondering where the doctor is, and Lightfoot kind of notices that someone outside is watching the house, so he thinks it's kind of shady.
So he grabs his gun.
Yeah, he grabs his pistol and runs outside to go confront the man watching his house. Meanwhile, inside, Mr. Sin has showed up to kill Leela, I suppose.
Right, that's the end of 2.
Yep.
And I guess the scenes with the doctor and Jago investigating were supposed to have some sort of tension because Weng-Chiang's secret lair is actually underneath the theater.
It's underneath the basement, we should add. The theater has a basement, and then the underneath the basement. Like an underbasement.
Yeah, well, it's connected to the sewers.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just part of the sewers. But yeah, that's the cliched secret lair that Weng-Chiang is using. And I don't know, for the first 4 episodes, Weng-Chiang and Chang didn't really seem all that menacing after a while, because they honestly just started to feel like a bumbling villain duo.
Well, you mean Chang was bumbling. Weng-Chiang just was like, Chang, you idiot. Then Chang would be like, no, monster, give me another day. I totally can do this. Not like I failed 3 times already.
But that's what made them seem sort of bumbling, because Weng-Chiang was the guy in charge, and then Chang was the incompetent henchman who gets yelled at for all his shortcomings.
Yeah, then fired at one point.
Yeah, then things take a turn for the dark for the both of them.
Well,
And
before
for
we
the
get
weird.
there, we have to explain episode 3. So the cliffhanger is resolved. Lightfoot doesn't find anyone outside, but he comes back in and sees Mr. Sin. He's like, oh no! Kind of shoots at him, and they have a scuffle, and Mr. Sin gets away. I guess, yeah. Just runs away. Meanwhile, the doctor and Jago haven't found anything because they don't know about the secret lair under the basement. The underbasement.
The underbasement? Okay.
So the doctor tells Jago to keep his eye out for any suspicious behavior from Chang, because the doctor's working with Scotland Yard and he'd like Jago's help, and Jago's like, oh man, I'm totally in.
Right. Any Jago, I guess, wants any chance at fame and fortune, I suppose.
He wants to make the money. Like he says later when he finds out about the underbasement. So the doctor heads back to Lightfoot's place and notices the cabinet that Lightfoot has hanging out in the dining room.
Right, Lightfoot explains how he got it from China.
Yeah, he lived in China for a while, and that's where he got the cabinet from, and he moved back to the UK with him.
And the Doctor, I guess he mentions here that there seems something amiss with the cabinet. I don't know if he actually explains what it is at this point.
No. Lightfoot thinks it's a puzzle cabinet, and he says no one's been able to open it yet. And the Doctor's like, interesting. Something's definitely off about this cabinet thing, but I don't know what it is yet.
So, actually, Leela not escaped, but she tailed Mr. Sin as he was leaving. And she gets back to the theater, and she actually ends up getting captured by Chang. Along with some other girl. Some theater cleaning girl, apparently.
Yeah. I think she doesn't get captured immediately because she shows up when Chang already has the theater cleaning girl. And Leela kind of busts in. Pretends to be this other girl that Chang had captured.
Right, wasn't it that Chang had captured two girls, but then Weng-Chiang because Weng-Chiang's draining the life force of people, and that's why that explains all the mysterious disappearances. He's trying to keep himself alive. So wasn't it that he captured some girl, and then Weng-Chiang immediately drained her life force, and he's like, bring me someone else, or something like that?
He captured two girls, and I think Leela pretends to be one of them, because when Chiang goes over to her, he's like, this woman has the muscles of a horse. What are you doing, Chang? And Chang's like, it was the best I could do with such short notice.
Wouldn't it be good to be more muscular since he's draining their...
I guess. I don't know why he has to specifically drain young girls' life force. I guess he's not an equal opportunity life force drainer. But back at the house, the Doctor, when he gets there, after talking about the puzzle cabinet, kind of figures out that Leela's gone. He figures that Leela's trailed Mr. Sin, and he guesses that their base is in the sewer, or he at least wants to investigate the sewer because of all the rats again. So he asks Lightfoot if he has a big gun.
And that giant mutated rat.
That's revealed to be Weng-Chiang's little pet, I guess, because Weng-Chiang just feeds him mutated meat, I guess. I don't know where he's getting this meat from, though.
I thought he tested the device on the rat and it mutated the rat.
Maybe.
Either way.
So the Doctor asks Lightfoot for a gun, and Lightfoot's just like, oh yeah, I don't have an elephant hunting gun, but I've got this duck hunting gun. He just pulls it off the top of the dresser. And he gives it to the Doctor, and the Doctor's like, well, I guess this'll work. So they head out on a boat into the sewer, and Lightfoot's like, okay, I'll wait for you for 2 hours, because I'm not going in that sewer. The Doctor's like, yeah, I don't blame you, and then he heads into the sewer with the big giant gun. Meanwhile, Leela has escaped, because she has the muscles of a horse.
She's getting tailed by the giant rat, and that's the cliffhanger.
Yeah, she escapes into the sewers, and Weng-Chiang's like, you'll die with the rats, and closes the door to the sewers, I guess.
I don't know if it's a slow escape.
Yeah, something. Yeah,
right, and in episode 4, the Doctor shoots the rat with the gun. I guess killing it, but I don't know.
I don't know, but they run away because Leela's like, we've got a gun now, we can go back. And the Doctor's like, yeah, it'll take me 20 minutes to reload this gun. So they leave the sewers and reconvene at Lightfoot's place again.
Right, to decide their next plan of action.
Yeah, the Doctor starts scribbling all over Lightfoot's tablecloth. And right. When the Doctor's finished mapping out the sewers, I think the Doctor mentions like he was there when the sewers were planned or something, and that's why he knows their layout.
Okay.
He says something about why
that.
He says some snarky comment about why he knows the whole layout of the sewers, and Lightfoot's like, okay, can I have that tablecloth now before my housekeeper comes in and goes bonkers about it?
So he throws, in a throwaway scene, he throws the tablecloth into a laundry basket. I'm sure that doesn't become a plot point at all.
Well, the fact that he threw the tablecloth in the laundry basket doesn't become a plot point. The fact that the laundry basket exists does.
Yeah, actually.
So Casey gets killed here somewhere.
Yeah, the Doctor and Leela decide to go to the theater to see what's up with Chang. And they decide to go see his show. And they're up in the balcony seats.
Oh, yeah.
Jago decides to go check in with the doctor to make sure he doesn't need any help with his investigation, so he goes up there and kind of makes a fool of himself.
Yeah, the doctor's like, you having fun on the floor there, Jago? Jago's like, I'm sorry, doctor, just checking in. Haven't seen anything suspicious around here.
But I'll let you know if I do.
Yeah.
Got your back, doctor.
He's been telling Casey about the doctor and how he's with Scotland Yard.
So Chang decides to do a card trick, and he decides to use the doctor as his subject or whatever in an excuse to kill him. So he throws the deck of cards up to the doctor with surprising skill. I mean, he throws what I assume is an unbound deck of cards, because he fans them out.
That was the most impressive part of his trick, to be honest, was throwing an unbound deck of cards up to the doctor without losing any of the cards.
Yeah, actually, come to think of it.
Right, so Chang wants to kill the doctor because he had told Weng-Chiang that he was going to finally actually succeed in killing the doctor. So Chang's performing this trick where he's going to shoot a bullet through a card that the doctor chooses, and only that card, and everyone thinks, oh no, he's going to shoot the doctor. But then he actually just performs the trick like expected.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Could have just shot the doctor right there, and everyone would just be like, oh no, the trick went wrong.
Well, someone else actually ends up dying.
We already mentioned it was Casey, so...
Yeah. Well, Chang calls the doctor down to the stage to participate in the classic sword through the box trick.
Yeah, this scene was a bit confusing to me.
Why?
Well, because the doctor, blatantly just walks out of the box, right?
Yeah.
I thought the point of the trick was that the doctor was supposed to stay in the box, get stabbed by a whole bunch of swords, and then open the box and reveal that the doctor was totally okay.
Yeah, he's just I guess he just wants to mess with Chang.
Yeah, I got that much, but then, Chang blatantly just looks at the doctor when the doctor hands him a sword at one point when the doctor's not in the box, and Chang just goes along with it for some reason.
No, he knows the doctor isn't in the box, because he makes that joke where he's like, well, one of us is yellow. And then he calls one of his other assistants into the box.
I don't know. It just seemed weird to me that Chang seemed to just brush aside the fact that the doctor wasn't in the box, because he had 2 opportunities to kill the doctor now and succeeded in neither of them.
Anyway, Casey is sort of snooping around down below and bumps into Weng-Chiang.
Who promptly kills him.
And places him in the box. The other subject goes out the trapdoor on the bottom like he's supposed to, and I guess Weng-Chiang throws Casey up there. So when they open the door, they see Casey's dead body. He falls out, and Jago sort of closes everything down as the crowd panics.
Also kind of humorous how Chang fails at taking one of the swords out and kind of fumbles with it for a couple seconds.
Right, I had this note that said that looked like it hurt, and I finally remembered what it was for. It was when Chang grabs one of the swords, because he's grabbing the swords and he's pulling them out one by one, by their hilts, obviously, and one of them doesn't come out completely, so he sort of just grabs it by the blade.
He bleed. Oh, you bleed.
Oh my god.
So he pulls it out, and they reveal Casey, and Jago's like, send the curtain down, pull it down. And they're all kind of suspicious, and Chang makes a sneaky getaway, and the doctor's like, wonder what happened. Jago's like, I think Chang killed him, and the doctor's like, no, Chang was just as surprised as all of us. Where did that guy go anyway?
That's when they tail Chang and find the underground lair, but Weng-Chiang has already escaped.
Yep. And I think this is when Jago starts having his fantasies about giving tours of the underbasement.
Right.
Charging like a
guinea a head. I don't know how much that is. I know the old monetary system in Britain was super complex, and obviously that's why they changed it. But I don't know what it was before.
Yeah, I don't know. Leela. Well, what happened?
Well, Chang sort of is disillusioned here about Weng-Chiang, and I think this is the point where he realizes that he's not actually a god. He's just a guy in a iron mask.
Yeah.
And he kind of goes insane and runs into the sewers, proclaiming that he's going to join his ancestors. And we hear him getting attacked by the rat. That's not that funny.
The doctor's super callous reaction to it was, she's like, think you're gonna have to find a new magician, Jago. And Jago's like, okay. So, yeah, Chang is presumably dead for now. Shows up
Until 10 minutes later.
shows up in episode 5 randomly. But meanwhile, Lightfoot's at his house guarding the box, and they posted a policeman outside.
Who is killed as soon as he shows up.
Yeah, he just gets...
by some Black Scorpion members.
Yeah, they throw a knife at him and it kills him. But it's revealed, we forgot to mention an earlier scene when the laundry hamper gets swapped out by some Chinese, and it's revealed that the new hamper has Mr. Sin in it, and he jumps out and steals the box. So Lightfoot had said something like, "You'll never catch me sleeping on the job again, Doctor." But he falls asleep reading a magazine. I don't remember what magazine it was, but I do know that magazine has a page on the wiki.
Right.
The page on the wiki just says, "This is the magazine that Lightfoot was reading when he fell asleep in Talons of Weng-Chiang."
Comprehensive.
Yeah. So
well,
they make off with the time cabinet, and that's the amazing cliffhanger at episode 4. And then episode 5 begins...
with Weng-Chiang cackling evilly.
Yeah, episode 5 begins, the Doctor and Leela are investigating the sewers a bit. They're heading out to see if they can find Weng-Chiang, and Jago has been exploring the basement and finds a bag, which he decides to go give to the Doctor. And he shows up at Lightfoot's house, just kind of storms in, and Lightfoot has a maid's apron on because he's tidying up the house a bit after the previous night's escapades. And Jago's like, "Take me to Lightfoot, man. I need to see Lightfoot." And he's like, "Well, consider yourself introduced. I'm Lightfoot."
Anyway, the Doctor and Leela also show back up. And
After Jago and Lightfoot leave, though.
Right. Yeah.
They decide that staking out the theater will be a good plan because the bag was found in the theater, and they figure, hey, it was Chang's bag, so maybe we'll come back for it. Let's go stake out the theater.
Turns out to be a great plan. Works out incredibly well for them.
They find Weng-Chiang, which was their goal, so I'd say it succeeded on all fronts.
Yeah, well...
Oh, I mean, they get captured, but that's a minor inconvenience.
They could have died! Anyway, the Doctor and Leela get back, and this is when the Doctor explains that the cabinet is actually a time machine.
Yeah. And he explains this because there's this porcelain disc in the bag that the Doctor figures out is the key to the time cabinet, and he realizes that's why they're after the bag, because Weng-Chiang needs the key to get into the time travel cabinet to make it work.
Right, and that's why he was after the cabinet in the first place, because he had the key but not the thing that the key opens. So yeah, now it's the situations are sort of reversed.
Also, Weng-Chiang makes one of his followers commit suicide because he forgot to bring the bag. You just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, he takes one of the red pills.
The red pill or the blue pill?
Anyway, the Doctor also explains that, well, obviously Weng-Chiang's from the future, and he explains the Peking homunculus here. I don't know how he deduces that the Peking homunculus was brought along.
Yeah, I don't know how he deduced Mr. Sin was the Peking homunculus, but it's like it's a cyborg. Has the brain of a pig.
Right, and it caused World War VI apparently.
Or almost caused it. I don't know. It was involved somehow.
Either way, it's a pretty big public menace, if this serial is any indication.
Yeah, well, so Jago and Lightfoot, now forming the duo, have been captured by Weng-Chiang, and he tries to get them to tell him where the key is. They're torturing / choking Jago to death, and Lightfoot's like, "All right, it's in my house." So he lets them live and throws them in a room with some young ladies again.
And the cliffhanger to 5 is the Doctor going off somewhere, and Leela... Well, actually, they surround the house, and the Doctor goes to investigate, and then Leela gets...
strangled by Weng-Chiang.
Right. And then it's revealed... Weng-Chiang's face is revealed, and it's all deformed and stuff, which was a side effect of the time travel. He's from the 51st century, by the way. It's not super important, but he is, so...
Yeah, when the Doctor sees his face, he recognizes it as Magnus Creel, one of the most notorious villains of the 51st century or whatever.
Yeah.
Time travel experimented with the Sigma experiment or something.
Right, and in the original draft of this, I guess, Weng-Chiang was originally supposed to be the master.
Yeah.
So I guess the reveal of his face would have been more dramatic, or
I feel like the master would have worked better in this serial, but I don't want to explain why just yet because my explanation hinges on the ending, which I don't want to spoil yet because we haven't explained it. So I'll explain that when we've explained the ending.
Well, I'll just say I think the master could have worked in this serial, but I didn't think.
Well, I'll explain why I think it would have worked better later.
Yeah.
So they capture them, and the doctor's like, "So you're looking for this?" And Magnus Creel is like, "Whoa, be careful! You might drop it and break it." And the doctor's like, "Oh yes, it's looks to be, I think he says porcelain or something like that." He says it'll shatter into 1,000 pieces if he drops it, and we'd never be able to repair it. So he kind of holds Creel hostage with it, and he's like, I want Jago and Lightfoot released, I want Leela released, and I want you to not use the time box because it'll explode and destroy a huge chunk of London. Because the doctor mentions that the Sigma experiment was like stretching an elastic band through time, and then when you try to use it again, the rubber band contracts again, and then like destroys everything or something. I don't know.
It'll blow up in everyone's faces, basically, if they use it, so that's all you need to know.
Creel only agrees to all those, but not use the time travel because he wants to get home.
Yeah. Obviously don't know what the doctor was expecting here.
So they head to Weng-Chiang Creel base, and
we also forgot to mention the part where Chang shows up again.
Yeah, but it seemed like it was going to be really important because he gave the Doctor and Leela these 2 clues about like go to the tongue or whatever, and then beware of the dragon's eyes.
Yeah.
And you were like, these are going to be really important. But they only become important because the Doctor only realizes what the clues are referring to after they're relevant.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's really no way he could have figured it out before then. So, yeah, but Chang actually does die, so, I mean, the rat didn't kill him, but he eventually just does die, so.
Yeah, while Jago and Lightfoot were talking again, Leela and the Doctor went and found Chang explicitly and talked to him.
Right. In an opium bar.
So, yeah, they're at the place, and the Doctor's trying to get Creel to also release the 2 women that he has, and Creel's like, no. And Mr. Sin has crawled into the eyes of this dragon and then zaps the Doctor, and he falls over. And it almost shatters the disc, and Creel's like, you fool!
You insolent fool!
He has the key now, so...
Nothing's stopping him.
Yeah, nothing's stopping him except the fact that he needs those 2 women to drain their life force so he can survive the time travel journey.
Right. Over the course of the serial, he'd been getting increasingly worse, I guess, because his the time he has between energy draining is getting shorter, and by the end, he's pretty much just dying.
Yeah, and
he does die.
We also forgot to mention the scene where Jago and Lightfoot attempt to escape the holding room.
Oh, right, the dumbwaiter.
They escape through the dumbwaiter, like, we're totally going to end up outside, and they end up in the dining room or something, and they're like, I don't think this is outside. And then they get surrounded by guards, and like, ah, darn, it was worth a shot.
That was a trap, right? That was like...
Yeah, pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah, don't think they would leave an unattended escape route right there for them.
Yeah, but now they're all stuck in there, and the Doctor's like, well, I've got a plan. Here, let's take this bag. You get me some water, Jago. Lightfoot, you go and smash open that pipe. Actually, I think I got that backwards. I think he sends Lightfoot to get the water and Jago to smash open the pipe.
Wow. Can't believe you made that mistake.
I'm actually totally lying. Jago did go get the water because he's the one splashing it on the tarp later.
Wow. Do you even remember anything? No, I'm just kidding.
Nope.
Just kidding, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. But the Doctor drapes the tarp over the hole in the gas pipe, I guess, so that it forms this kind of pocket of gas. And they kind of drench it with water to weigh it down so it doesn't look as shady when they open the door. And then they light it on fire, and I guess Tom Baker's not that good with matches because he kind of fumbles with 3 or 4 matches before he gets one to light.
Does he? I didn't notice that.
Oh, he lights one, then he actually drops it on the floor. So there's a lit match just hanging out on the floor, and then he tries to grab another one and knocks 3 or 4 more out of the little matchbook before he can get another one to light.
I guess they still can't afford to do reshoots.
It's okay, it wasn't that noticeable. He just kind of fumbles with the matches for a bit and lights it.
Less noticeable than Chang running his hand along the length of a sword. But right, they get out, and there's some little mini explosion that knocks out the guards.
But doesn't kill them somehow.
Right.
It was a pretty powerful explosion. So they get knocked out, and they escape. And the doctor sends the two ladies to escape, but he takes Jago, Lightfoot, and Leela. Leela's been taken to have her life force drained, but the doctor doesn't know this. Because Leela wasn't with them when they got captured because they let her go, but she followed them anyway and tries to kill Creel, but then he's like, I guess I'll just drain you first. He puts her in the draining machine, she spits at him and throws shade and, it's like, I'd rather die than look at you anymore. And when we're in the afterlife, I will hunt you down and unleash my vengeance upon you.
Pretty extreme.
Then Creel's like, yeah, whatever. And then the doctor busts in and throws a hatchet into the draining machine and breaks it to let Leela out. And then Mr. Sin starts shooting at him, and Creel kind of runs off and hides behind the dragon.
Right, with the dragon laser.
The dragon laser. So while they're hiding, the doctor kind of makes a break for it and grabs the hatchet and hides behind the draining machine / column / wall. He hides on the side. The rest of them are hiding behind the table that's slowly getting destroyed by the dragon laser.
Right, Chiang gives them, Weng-Chiang / Greel gives them the chance to leave. The doctor's like, well, let's see about that. And he peeks his head out from under the table, and Sin immediately shoots. Yeah, that's how the doctor gets to the column on the side. Mm-hmm. And the table they're hiding behind looks like it has a huge opening in it that Sin could just shoot through, but I don't know.
Yeah, Greel tells Sin that when they escape, he can shoot whoever he wants, and I guess he decides to take him up on that offer immediately because some of Creel's guards busted, and Mr. Sin decides to just gun them down with the laser. Creel's like, no, you fool, not them.
And then he decides to gun down Creel.
Well, first, Jago creates a distraction so Leela can get one of the guards' guns, and then she tries to shoot at the laser, and she's like, I've never shot one of these before.
Right. But, I mean, she probably shot a crossbow, right? Her civilization
Yeah, she shot a crossbow and those laser guns.
Yeah, so why is she shooting directly at the floor?
Well, I guess she's not used to the recoil, because I suppose a laser gun wouldn't have a recoil like a revolver would.
I don't know. You think she'd be able to hold, like, a one-handed gun?
Lightfoot says something like, who are you shooting at? And, but then Creel kind of runs over to the time cabinet and shoves the key in, and it starts moving, and then Mr. Sin aims at him. He's like, no, what are you doing, Mr. Sin? No! And shoots Greel. Greel kind of falls over, and the doctor hatchets the dragon laser. And scuffles with Greel for a bit.
Right, which ends with Greel getting pushed into the regeneration machine and disintegrating. Yeah. I didn't know why he disintegrated. Was he just out of time?
I don't know.
Did the machine come on and it didn't work or something?
I don't know.
He just kind of disappears. I guess it would have made a little bit more sense if it was the Master. They kind of would have done something different and expanded upon his exit there.
That's why I thought it would have been better if it was the Master, because they could have used the crispy face Master, right? And then what they could have done was at the end when they could have had him disintegrate or something, and then the next appearance of the Master, they could have just cast a new non-crispy actor. It would have been the perfect explanation for why he's not crispy anymore. They could be like, oh yeah, the machine reconstituted his molecules or something, and they could have made up an explanation for it.
No, I think that's exactly what they were going to do, because Greel has these lines like, oh, you'll be the life force for my regeneration and stuff like that.
Also, the time cabinet was obviously originally the TARDIS for the Master, so...
Yeah.
I feel like it would have been a really interesting Master serial, actually, and now I want to read the alternate universe version where that happened. They didn't replace it with Creel.
Right, I don't know if we explained this, but I'm pretty sure it was Holmes who decided not to have it be the Master, because he didn't want another, was the Master all along. Hinchcliffe.
I think Hinchcliffe didn't want the big reveal to be that it was the Master, because they had done it so many times before, mainly in the Dick Letts era, since they've only done it once in the Hinchcliffe Holmes era.
Well, I don't think it would have been over the top to have the Master appear here, even though he already appeared this season. I mean, we've had a season where he was the villain every serial, so...
Yeah, I don't think it would have been over the top, and I think it would have been a good way to write out the crispy face Master and bring in like an entirely new Master And they could have even given him a new set of regenerations. They could have, the machine maybe backfired and sent him traveling through time, and then he ended up somewhere with a new regeneration cycle or something. Could have avoided tons of years of Monster Timeline controversy.
But nope. And it's actually Magnus Greel, a criminal from the 51st century.
And it just would have been a good way to write out that monster, I guess. Would have given him a complete story, sort of.
Yeah, would have given him closure.
It's a pity that it didn't happen, but I guess I can see the reasoning behind why they didn't do it. It's not very strong reasoning, but I can see the reasoning that they used.
Either way, Sin, I guess, jumps out of the dragon onto
the Doctor.
Right. And they sort of also scuffle for a bit, and the Doctor removes his fuse, I think they call it.
Yeah. So the Doctor kills both Creel and Mr. Sin.
Yep. And that's pretty much how it ends. Their enemies are all dead, so...
Well, Jago and Lightfoot follow the Doctor to the TARDIS, and Lightfoot's got his arm in a cross, and Jago has a wrapping around his head. And then they... Lightfoot's trying to explain tea to Leela. Leela's like, I don't understand. Why would you ask me if I wanted 1 month or 2? When I don't have a choice, and I always have to say 1. And Lightfoot's like, kind of has that's a good point expression on his face.
Us. Run! No.
He kind of is like, yeah, that's a good point, but he doesn't say it. He just kind of has that look on his face like, oh yeah, I never really thought about that. And the Doctor's like, yeah, I don't have time to explain tea to you, Leela. God, that was bound to happen. How did Tom Baker not even flub that line? That's impressive.
How have we not called Leela Susan, Sarah, Joe, or...
Because she's unique.
Yeah, I guess.
So they get in the TARDIS and they're leaving, and Jago's like, see, must be from Scotland Yard. It says police right on it. Lightfoot's like, right, yeah. That's why it's disappearing.
And Jago's like, yeah, don't our police have great technology or something like that?
And then it ends on that line. And then it kind of, and he says, oh yeah, it's a trick that Chang would have appreciated. Kind of points to the poster of Chang, and it zooms in, and then it ends.
Yep. So, I mean, even though I think both of us would have preferred if this actually were a Master serial, pretty good serial to close out the season on, actually.
Mm-hmm. And really good 6-parter, I think.
Yeah, I mean...
It was paced nicely.
As we've been getting into, with the 6-part serials in the Hinchcliffe / Holmes era, usually pretty much better than what we've seen before. At least paced better. I mean, whether or not the stories are actually better is debatable, I guess, and subjective, but I think they're just paced better, which is why we're liking them a little bit more. Yeah,
and I mean, if you think about it really deeply, this story wasn't anything special. It's just kind of another twist, another spin on the, villain is displaced in time. He's in the wrong place and he's going to kill everybody there to get back to his own time, sort of thing that we've seen before. But what really made the serial interesting, I think, is 1, Jago, 2, Lightfoot, and 3, Victorian England, which is just kind of a cool period to visit.
Yeah. They haven't really done much with the Victorian era in this show, surprisingly.
Yeah, surprisingly, because they kind of beat it to death in the reboot.
Oh, really? Oh, God. Well, maybe they're making up for lost time.
Well, they beat it to death for a while, and then they kind of stop going there, and then it feels new again every time they go there. They start spacing it out again.
So kind of like what they do with the Master, I guess.
Yeah, I guess also another reason why maybe they didn't want it to be a Monster serial is because the Monster had appeared a couple serials ago, but, like you said, we had a whole season where the Monster appeared in every serial, so...
But even though he had appeared recently, it would have given this season some sort of sense of closure, like, oh, he gets away in that serial, and then, he comes back here.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, it also would have been interesting because the Doctor didn't know that the Monster got away. He thought the Monster was dead until the end of the serial. He dematerializes before the Monster does, and he doesn't know the Monster is still alive.
Yeah.
But when What's-His-Name sees the Monster dematerialize, like, I don't think there's enough space in the universe for the 2 of them. But I guess we'll, I don't know when the Monster shows up again.
Neither do I.
So I guess we'll talk more about Crispy Monster when he shows up again, if his next form is the Crispy Monster.
I actually spoiled a bunch of stuff about the Master recently, then forgot it somehow.
Okay. I was going to say, did you go and attempt to read his timeline?
No. I'm not that masochistic.
You're not that masochistic?
Oh, God.
Okay, enough about the Monster. I guess we can talk about Jago and Lightfoot, because they're kind of the most interesting season or serial-specific characters we've had in a while.
And the most interesting characters in this serial, bar none. Like, even the Doctor and Leela were less interesting here, to be honest.
Well, at least the Doctor didn't tell Leela to shut up when she wasn't talking in this serial. And at least he appreciated that she saved his life in episode 1.
Yep. And I mean, Leela, before we get into Jago and Lightfoot, which might turn into a little bit of an argument, but Leela's actually still doing things. Even after the 2 Boucher serials, she's actually being an active companion.
Well, the serial was written by Robert Holmes, so maybe he just kind of got what Chris Boucher was going for.
Well, hopefully it keeps up. Hopefully.
I read that actually Hinchcliffe had promised Tom Baker that they were going to write Leela out at the end of this serial. Because, 1, Tom Baker thought the companion was too violent for the show, first off, and 2...
Yeah, sure.
And 2, he just didn't want a companion, as we mentioned. And Hinchcliffe was like, all right, we'll write him out. But during this serial, the production... Write her out. During the production of this serial, Hinchcliffe slowly kind of handed the reins over to his successor, Graham Williams. Graham Williams? Graham Williams.
Probably Graham.
Graham Williams, who was like, I kind of really like Leela. Hey, Louise Jameson, do you want to stay on the show for a while? And she was a bit tentative to accept for various reasons, not the least of which is Tom didn't want a companion. But she also didn't want to accept because she actually has to wear brown contact lenses for the role of Leela. I didn't know that. Her eyes are actually natively blue. So Graham Williams...
sounds like it would look really creepy, to be honest.
Yeah, you know what? Graham Williams says, we'll do away with the contact lenses. If we do away with the contact lenses, will you stay? And she's like, yep, okay.
So she starts having blue eyes next
I think they explain it, though. I think they explain it as part of the plot. I don't think they just take her contact lenses out and they're like, oh yeah, your eyes are blue now. Not that we ever notice the eye color of any of the actors on screen anyway.
Yeah, no, because, every eye color looks brown when you're far enough away, so...
But I guess we'll see what happens with that, but we have Graham Williams to thank for the fact that Leela didn't go out in this serial.
Thanks, Graham Williams.
But actually, though, because she's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jago and Lightfoot.
I liked Jago more.
I like Lightfoot.
I liked his self-serving mannerisms. And his greed.
His greed. I don't know, I just liked Lightfoot's voice. Also his...
Wow.
His, how would you describe it? His educatedness. They both had mustaches, just Jago had those over-the-top sideburns.
Yeah, he had those 19th century sideburns.
Yeah, at least Lightfoot's facial hair looked good on him.
Facial hair never looks good. And it's coming from me.
Yeah. You may not know this, but Kiyan can grow a beard pretty quickly, and had a beard for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I think whether or not you like Jago or Lightfoot more, I think you can agree that their partnership just works really well.
Yeah, and that's why they deserve their own series, which they get.
Yeah, Big Finish doing them justice, giving them a spin-off.
And that might be why we enjoyed this serial a lot, because, it had interesting serial-specific characters. Usually the serial-specific characters aren't that well-written or interesting, but here, no, that's not the case. I like the scene where Jago's like, yeah, I always try and pretend to be tough, but actually I'm just scared out of my wits all the time.
Yeah, and then Lightfoot follows it up with, yeah, I think we're all scared out of our wits all those times, but to be honest, it's just what you do that matters and not how you feel about it, or whatever he says.
So was he trying to encourage Jago, or was he inadvertently telling him to shut up? I don't know.
I don't think even Lightfoot knows, to be honest. Yeah, I think they have currently... I think Big Finish puts out box sets with them, which are 4 stories in the box set, and I think they currently have 9 of those out right now, so they have 36 stories, I guess, out.
Great.
Not including They appear once or twice in the Fourth Doctor range when the Fourth Doctor visits Victorian England again,
Right.
and they travel with the Sixth Doctor for 2 adventures.
Right. They
So-
have their own novels too, don't they?
I don't
they
think they have their own novels, but they appear in the novels.
Hmm.
Lightfoot at least shows up with the Eighth Doctor, alone for some reason, without Jago. I wonder if that's explained in the novel or not, but it's with the Zygons, and the Eighth Doctor and Lightfoot kind of investigate what's going on with the Zygons in Victorian England. It's called the Body Snatchers, I think. But yeah. So yeah, Jago and Lightfoot pretty good. I guess we'll do a season retrospective now that we've kind of wrapped up everything we want to say about the serial.
Right. I mean, all I really have to say about this season, it was probably my favorite Fourth Doctor season.
Yeah, I think it's probably the best Fourth Doctor season we've gotten so far.
Right. Production value seemed a little higher for whatever reason.
Maybe because Hinchcliffe knew he was leaving at the end of the season. Was like, yeah, just gonna spend all his money. Also, I think it's just one of the most consistent quality seasons we've had so far, where all the stories are moderately good to just being great in the term, in respect to the Chris Boucher serials.
Right. And I think they started it off. This might be, we haven't really discussed this, but this might be an important aspect to which seasons we enjoy and which we don't. But they started it off with the weakest serial, Mask of Mandragora.
Yeah.
And then it just
sure.
consistently got better. So, maybe we haven't really discussed this, but maybe that has something to do with our enjoyment.
Yeah, it might come down to because I think we compare serials within seasons more than we do like cross-compare seasons, because I think a season is the easiest kind of subcategory to compare them
I mean,
on.
unless there's direct comparison to be had.
Right. So I think it's just kind of, if they started off with the weakest one, all the other ones will look better by comparison.
Yeah.
Because we'll compare it to the first serial of the season, because one, it was the first, and two, if we think it was the weakest, then it just makes an easy way to compare it against. Like if we have a season where they put the weakest serial in the middle, and we watch the first serial, because we always have to judge the second serial of the season in comparison to the first. So if the weakest one falls in the middle, we end up watching the weakest one a couple weeks later, and then that might revise our opinion of previous serials in the season.
Right.
See, it's probably I don't know if they probably didn't do it intentionally, starting off with the weakest serial,
Yeah, probably not.
considering Liz Sladen really wanted to make that serial.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why they did it. But right, Sarah also left.
Right, we had Sarah leaving and Leela joining.
Right, so 2 pretty strong companions here.
Right. Just kind of a good all-around season for the TARDIS crew. Leela's a good companion. She didn't get written out at the end of the season like Hinchcliffe promised Tom Baker. Whether or not Tom Baker was pleased about that, probably wasn't, but I feel like they're on good terms today, at least, Louise Jameson and Tom Baker. I don't actually know. But I'm interested to see now also that Hinchcliffe and Holmes, the duo is no longer there, but Robert Holmes is still script editor, so I think we'll still have a higher quality of dialogue, but with a new producer, I'm curious to see what kind of direction the show is going to take. Because I don't know anything about the next era. I mean, we knew coming into Hinchcliffe and Holmes that it was going to be darker and there was going to be more violence and more kind of heavy themes, so to speak.
Well, I think that keeps up, at least the darker or more violent aspect. I mean, you always
possibly.
hear, like, the Fourth Doctor era is pretty dark compared to previous eras.
It's entirely possible that we'll get a case of whiplash because the tone will change so much between this serial and the next that...
I doubt it.
We'll see. It depends on whether or not Graham Williams is going to cede to the BBC's request to be less violent or not. I mean, it all depends on how steel-willed the producer is in having their way, I suppose.
I don't think they're going to get very much less violent or dark. Maybe they just won't show as many deaths on screen.
Especially with Leela as the companion. Just hanging around Janus Thorns. Jeez. Can't get it right. But yeah, I think some of my favorite Fourth Doctor serials come from this season, and that's about all I have to say about this season. Pretty good, and I think when we look back in the Fourth Doctor retrospective, we'll be looking at some of the most serials from this season as our favorites, probably.
Right.
Although, obviously, it's still too early to tell, even though we're 3 seasons into the Fourth Doctor.
Right, because he
There's 4 more. Season 15, 16, 17, and 18.
Right. I think we calculated we'll be done with the Fourth Doctor in April of 2016.
Yeah,
And right now it's November 2015.
Just chugging along. The cool thing is we'll have a theme change before the end of the Fourth Doctor's run, so, like, that'll be interesting, right?
For, like, a day. Like, yeah, new theme. And then we watch the next episode like, it's not new anymore. Well, it may not be that quick to wear off.
Yeah, well, email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, thoughts on Hinchcliffe and Holmes just in general, I guess. If you have any glaring things you want us to read for some reason, check us out on YouTube at Trust Your Doctor. Check us out on iTunes at Trust Your Doctor. Leave a rating if you like the show. That'd be great. Tell your friends about the show so we can take over the world with our podcasting powers. Or a time cabinet.
Whichever one. We're not going to tell you what we have. Check us out on Facebook and Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter, TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next week we head on to the next season with Horror of Fang Rock. But until then, the end.